Hey there, rookies! Welcome! As a veteran plant engineer, I am here to completely demystify the internal mechanics of industrial digital scales for you today in this explainer. We are going to look under the hood of the machines that quite literally keep our entire operation balanced. Out there on the factory floor, these scales are the silent judges of absolutely everything we do. If you don't understand how they work, well, you can't fix them when they inevitably go down. And if you can't fix them, production grinds to a total halt. So we're going to get you up to speed right now.
I literally grew up hearing this brilliant mantra from an old mentor of mine at a valve factory. He drilled it into my head day in and day out. And honestly, it is the absolute truth that anchors why we need to master these precision instruments. Think about it for a second. If our measurements are off by even a fraction of a percent, our product quality drops. Our safety gets compromised because, hey, we might accidentally overload a vessel, and ultimately, the company loses serious money. It really is that simple. Precision is our baseline.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the agenda. 1. The heart of the scale. 2. Anatomy of a load cell. 3. 5 steps to digital. 4. Types of weight sensors. And 5. Pro field tips. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The heart of the scale. Before we start zooming in on the microscopic mechanics, we really need to grasp the basic 4-part architecture of the digital weighing systems we use. Basically, every digital scale out there relies on 4 main components working in perfect harmony. First up, you have the load cell. This is the muscle. It actually physically feels the weight of whatever we're measuring. Next is the signal conditioner. See, the signal coming out of that load cell is incredibly weak, just a tiny whisper of voltage, so the conditioner amplifies it and filters out the static. Third, we've got the microcontroller, which acts as the computer to process all that amplified data. And finally, the LCD screen, which gives us a readable number on the floor.
The crucial takeaway here is this hidden hero, the load cell. It's a transducer. Now, transducer might sound like a fancy engineering term, but it just means a device that converts one form of energy into another. In our case, it takes a physical, mechanical force and translates it into a precise, measurable electrical signal. Without this transducer doing all the heavy lifting, the rest of our extremely expensive electronics is basically just a useless blank screen.
Moving on to Section 2. Anatomy of a load cell. To make these electrical concepts a bit easier to swallow, I want you to think of a load cell like a living biological organism.
This biological analogy brilliantly illustrates what's going on inside. The heavy metal body, usually machined from some high-quality steel or aluminum, is the workhorse. It's the bones and muscle, built to carry the load and flex predictably. Then you got these tiny little strain gauges glued precisely to that metal. Those are the highly sensitive nerves, constantly reacting as the metal flexes. And the Wheatstone bridge circuit, that acts as the brain, gathering up all those tiny signals from the nerves to actually make sense of what the body is feeling.
And let me tell you, that brain is absolutely vital. Out on the plant floor, we're dealing with massive temperature swings near the blast furnaces, heavy vibrations from the stamping presses, just all kinds of electrical interference. The Wheatstone bridge takes the microscopic resistance changes from our strain gauge nerves, completely ignores all that environmental noise and temperature shifting, and pumps out a highly accurate, incredibly stable voltage signal. It filters the chaos so we only see the true weight.
Section 3. 5 steps to digital. Let's see how this actually builds into our standard operating procedure for turning physical force into digital data.
It is a clean, 5-step framework that happens practically instantly. Step 1, physical force is applied to the scale. Step 2, the solid metal body elastically bends. Now, you can't see this with the naked eye, but it is bending. Step 3, that microscopic deformation causes the glued-on strain gauges to change their electrical resistance. Step 4, the Wheatstone bridge grabs that resistance change and outputs a clean electrical signal. And finally, Step 5, the indicator translates that signal into the kilograms or pounds that pop up on the display.
What's really fascinating here is the inverse relationship in Step 3. Think of a strain gauge exactly like a rubber band. When you apply force and stretch it, it gets thinner and longer, right? Well, because it's thinner, it's actually much harder for electricity to flow through it, so the electrical resistance goes up. But if you compress it, it gets thicker and shorter. That makes it easier for the current to flow, driving the resistance down. That continuous shifting is exactly how we get flawless process control data.
All right, Section 4, types of weight sensors. Because we work in so many diverse environments on the factory floor, you really need to recognize the different physical forms this tech takes. These things are incredibly versatile. You're going to see flat compression cells shoved under massive multi-ton storage silos. You'll find tension cells dangling from the overhead cranes, measuring immense pull as we lift steel. You'll deal with shear beams tucked underneath conveyor platforms. And you'll spot S-types managing our hoppers, mostly because that unique S shape lets them handle both pushing and pulling forces without breaking a sweat.
Section 5. Pro Field Tips. Listen up, rookies, because we're shifting from theory to the practical, hard-earned wisdom that will literally save your skin when a machine goes down.
Picture this. An operator flags you down because a scale is behaving totally erratically. It shuts off the second you pull the wall plug, and when it is plugged in, the screen is just flickering away. What is your very first move as a troubleshooting detective? I can tell you from years on the floor, that specific combo of symptoms almost always means a shorted main battery is messing with the charging circuit. Seriously, swap that battery out first. I've watched new guys waste hours tearing into complex load cell wiring when it was literally just a bad 12-volt battery dragging the whole system down. Don't be that guy. Now, you're not just working on digital stuff. When you're out inspecting older mechanical lever systems, remember this. The sensitivity depends entirely on how the mass is distributed around the central fulcrum point. If your load point, your power point, and your fulcrum are all perfectly aligned on a straight horizontal line, you've got a neutral lever. And that means its sensitivity stays absolutely constant no matter how much weight is sitting on that platform. Here's a quick mechanical trick for those older scales. Rub an old steel file on a pivot. If that pivot is properly hardened, it'll actually cut the file's teeth. And hey, golden rule for installation, never ever use a hardened steel hammer to knock a pivot into place. The pivot metal is brittle and you will crack it right in half. Always reach for a softer brass hammer to absorb that shock.
Last tip. If you're stuck in the lab dealing with a highly sensitive balance that's throwing off-center load errors, meaning it gives you different weights depending on where you place the item on the pan, you can actually correct the tolerance manually. You just place the unit on some supports and adjust the specific screws located underneath the balance. But you have to do it in super small increments. Turn them slightly, remeasure with your test weights, and repeat until the reading is uniform across the whole pan.
So here is my challenge to you. Take these 5 steps, take these field tips, and apply them on your very next shift. Stop looking at these machines as just simple scales. Start seeing them as the intricate nervous systems that keep this entire plant alive, productive, and most importantly, safe. Remember what we said at the start. If our measurements dictate our improvements, what are you going to improve first?